Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. Another wonderful day in the markets. 8K BTC. Did you guys think we'd never see 8,000 Bitcoin again? It's been a pretty good July, to say the least. Although, to be fair, most of the real fun just kind of happened in the last week and a half or so. But all in all, good stuff. Appreciate everybody being here for another edition of Live with Node Investor. Remember to hit those likes. Remember to subscribe if you don't already for weekly, at least, if not more, technical analysis updates on the markets and plenty of live streams. As you guys know, we like to do the live streams here. I'll take your questions. We'll look at some charts. We'll talk altcoins getting smacked. But I think I'm gonna start doing some shopping here. I've been very heavy BTC in terms of my long-term holds. The trading, you look at everything, right? Obviously, Bitcoin has been the best place to be. But from the alt perspective, I mean, every time I think maybe they've bottomed out, I'm going to wait, look for a reversal. They have not. They just continue to pull in. I'm thinking we're getting close, though. And now that Bitcoin is kind of hitting this level here at 8K, we'll see if they can start to show a little bit more life. And we kind of saw this same scenario. This feels a lot, for those of you that were in the markets last year, this feels a lot like October, where you had Bitcoin just super strong and most of the alts just really didn't keep up, and Bitcoin was clearly the place to be. And then going into November, it started to shift over, and then you had this back and forth, and they started to keep up. But feels like we're doing that. Same thing with March, April. We had something real similar there where things were just lagging, and then everything caught up to BTC and more so. So it was nice, but hey, we'll see what we do here. Let's take a look at the charts here near term. Take a look at some of the thoughts around Bitcoin, long-term charts, short-term charts, and then get those names ready. We will certainly be looking to take a look at some of your names there. Let me clear some of this stuff here. I'll just kind of focus on the price without the indicators for now. And really quick, before we get started, you guys know I try to keep my channel commercial free, ad free, whatever free. If you go to nodeinvestor.com, you can learn more information about my training courses. You can also learn more information about the private group as well as the alerts channel, which is new here, and we'll be adding a lot more to this here going forward. But I'm excited to say I'm getting close. We're getting close to releasing the trading video series. It's going to be very in-depth. It's going to provide specifics on strategies that I use, the rules around it, way more than technical analysis. And if you guys don't already know, there's a very big difference between technical analysis and actual trading. Trading is a part, or technical analysis is a part of trading, but trading, the discipline, encompasses much more than being able to read the charts and do all that fun stuff. So there's psychology, there's strategy, there's risk management, there's all that fun stuff. So I will be announcing more of those when those are available. But I think you guys will like those, especially for the folks that are a little bit more active in wanting to do some of the trading and all that good stuff. So let's get to it. So looking at the charts here, first let's go to the coin market cap here, because this is continuing to drive upward. Bitcoin dominance, 47% now. And look at the market cap, though. It's still sub 300. It's close, obviously, but you can see that even though the Bitcoin dominance just has driven up so much, the market cap has not moved as high as you would have thought. With Bitcoin going up 30+% this month, you would have thought market cap would have, just skyrocketed, but it didn't. And that's clearly because of the flight of capital out of the alts and into Bitcoin. All the dips in Bitcoin continue to be bought up. There is Bitcoin ETF news. We saw some news earlier today about an SEC decision delaying the review of a Bitcoin ETF until September. And keep in mind, guys, there are several ETFs that are on the table right now. And I mean several in terms of the custodians, right? So the companies behind them. This specific ETF was for the Direxion ETF, right? And it says right here in the article, notably, these proposal be postponer for VanEx and SolidX, right? So there's several different ETFs. There's the CBOE ETF. There's several ones out there. So just keep that in mind. But I mean, at the end of the day, ETF is, in my opinion, very good for Bitcoin, very positive. It's going to open up the doors to a lot more what I would call kind of mainstream, traditional investors, only because, you're going to now have easier access to Bitcoin exposure via your traditional accounts, TD Ameritrade, Interactive Brokers, all that good stuff. And so if you get an ETF that is truly backed by Bitcoin, right? Not a futures, not a derivative, none of that, but a true ETF that is fully backed by Bitcoin, that would be huge for the market, because they're going to have to go out and start picking up some BTC. And so that would certainly cause a bullish reaction when that's announced. Now, if there's not an announcement until September, I mean, here we are. We're only 2 weeks into the speculation of, oh man, there's an ETF coming, right? You got to remember this inverse head and shoulder breakout kind of corresponded with the rumors of ETFs coming, right? We started seeing this pattern form just as that started to hit the forefront, and this is very young in the move in terms of the bigger picture. And so if this happens to go, if the speculation of an ETF continues until September, man, we could just continue to see this big uptrend. It could be one of those big buy the rumor, sell the news scenarios. If it goes that high right before the actual announcement, I think you might see a quick reaction lower, but then you'd see a big pop just because that would be just so bullish longer term. It all depends on where the price is and how far it's already moved when the actual news comes. And so that's going to be certainly in the forefront, the biggest news for crypto right now, because I mean, that's just driving everything. That's driving the sentiment, that's driving the reversal in Bitcoin, that's driving the pullback in the alts. I mean, that is just such a big piece of potential news that that's certainly going to be the most important single piece of news right now. And and you guys know me, I'm all about the technical analysis, the charts, the trading, and I take news with a grain of salt, and I certainly don't trade or make my investment decisions based on just news. But that kind of news is huge, right? So that's big news there. So let's see here. Where are we in terms of the mic here? Okay, can you guys hear me okay on the mic? I just realized that my chart wasn't up here. So I'm here showing you guys charts. You guys should have said something here. Okay, good. All right, so hopefully you can see the charts now. Thank you, guys. Oh, technical difficulties. I need an assistant. I need an assistant so I can just ramble on, and someone will keep me in check here. So, all right. So for the rest of the stream, we'll definitely look at charts. I'm not going to focus too much on the rest of the news here, but I will limit this to about an hour or so, and we will go from there. So let's get to it here. So don't look at the alts, please don't. All right, we won't look at the alts here. So let's go look at the alts. Man, the alts got smashed. This is interesting here. I was looking at on CoinMarketCap the BTC performance here, and obviously there's some good positive reaction across the board here. But yesterday when I was looking at the top 20, top 30 names, I mean, they were 24-hour performance was like -20, -25, -17. I mean, it was just brutal. You're seeing some recoveries here, but certainly not across the board. But big picture, I'm starting to get a little bit more attentive to some of these potential setups here. So let's take a look at Bitcoin first and see the long-term picture here. Let me go to a different exchange here on the BTC side here, the weekly chart. There we go. And so looking at the weekly chart, there's this long downtrend that's been in place. Everyone's aware of that. And it's interesting to see that we're bumping right up to that now. So here we are. We've had this nice rally off of the lows, the 5,800 double bottom low. We had a high, a pullback, created a higher weekly low. And then last week was solid confirmation that that was a higher low. We had that clear breakout, very strong volume on that breakout. And this is an interesting week because, it's a continuation week, but here we are bumping into this trend line. And so how much further over that we go, it's going to be interesting. Clearly, if there's any kind of news that comes out, that's going to be a catalyst that's going to just blow all this out of the water here. But it's good to see that we're living above the 10 EMA on the weekly. We're pulling in here. And so what I want to see now is on this daily, as we approach this trend line, you're seeing some big volume here near the top of this move. The RSI on the daily is certainly starting to get up there. It's at 76 now. But best case scenario, at least for me approaching this trend line here, is to put in a little bit of a bull flag or some sort of pause that just kind of rides slowly here to the downside along this trend line. And so if you see a little bit of a pause here, that would be so healthy, especially if it was on lower volume. So if we had a couple of days of just kind of sitting tight and pulling back, let this moving average catch up, this would really just set up for another strong push above this trend line. And if you can get some good volume on that, I mean, that at that point, you're going to really see the momentum pick up here. So I know we've had a very big move off of the lows already. You can see peak to peak. It's about 44.5%, 45% basically. And so that's a huge move. But a huge move off the lows is not unusual. You guys have seen that with the alts when they finally bottom. That first week off the lows is when you tend to get the biggest percentage moves. But in the big scheme of things, if you get this big pullback and we start a new bear run or bull run that takes us higher, this is going to be just the beginning, right? It's going to look small once you start to zoom out. And so just keep that in mind. I mean, this, if we get a decent pullback or a pause here, this could just really set up for another strong leg higher. And that's what I'm looking at here. So that's the bull case. On the bear side, obviously the worst case scenario is, hey, that was it. We've run into resistance and bam, that, we're going straight down here. And so there's nothing indicating that right now. And especially with the potential of a news out on the table, that's not the camp that I'm in right now. And so I'm not looking for that, but you got to look at both sides of the market. I mean, we've had a big, strong move. We certainly could do that. I mean, no one expected this double top here in April or May to continue, that far down for that long. I mean, the May through June period was just kind of this relentless grind lower. And so, anything can happen in these markets, right? Obviously. So are the alts over with? Are they done? I don't think so. There's a lot of really good quality alts out there. And we'll take a look at those. And some of those are starting to become attractive here at some of these lows. Some of them are testing long-term support. Some of them are at new lows. And so they're looking at that. So that's what I'm looking for here on BTC on the daily going into the kind of the next week or so here. On the 4-hour, we're pausing a little bit here right below that trend line again. Let me clear that trend line for now. The 10 EMA it was a little extended here earlier when it had that push over 8,200, but it's sitting tight here. So it's not too bad here. It's just kind of sitting tight, forming a little bit of a flag here near the highs. 10 EMA is still down around 8K, which is good. I was hoping to see a little bit of more of a bull flag type of pullback and then a rally higher, but it's sitting tight here near the top. So these dips just continue to be bought up. Every time Bitcoin has that little bit of a pullback, you see the buyers step up there. And so for now, until this says otherwise, you got to go with it and you got to continue there. But it is feeling a little extended on the daily. So, I remain cautious here, right? I'm not, if I wouldn't necessarily be FOMOing in here per se. Obviously, it depends on your time frame, your point of view. If you're looking out months and you're thinking, hey, this is going to be that was the bottom, then any kind of little small percent pullback doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things. If you're trading it, certainly higher risk here just because of the move we've had. And so you got to keep that in mind with your time frame here. And then looking at the 1 hours, which that's a little too granular for most parts, but you did see a little bit of selling pressure show up here above this, this $8,300 mark. Every time it would pop above there, you saw a lot of sellers start showing up. And so that's kind of become the new resistance. We saw this little choppy consolidation back here where 7,500 was kind of that wall every time it went above, and then it finally broke through. And then here we go, 7,800. And now it's kind of that 8,300 or so, but still kind of holding up here on the 1 hours. So until this breaks, it's still looking okay there. So that's kind of the different views there on BTC. All in all, the trend is your friend. We are clearly in an uptrend. You're making a series of higher highs and higher lows now. And so until that changes, we are in a confirmed uptrend. All right, let's take a look at some of the bloodbath that is the alts. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh because it's not funny, especially if you've been sitting on the alts here. But let's start with some of the big names, and then I'll start taking a few of the names that you guys want to take a look at. So we'll start with the big cap here first, looking at I'm going to go BTC pair or USD pair and then BTC pair. But looking at Ethereum here, it's trying to form a little bit of a low, trying to form a reversal, clearly not keeping up with Bitcoin, as many of these are not. But you can see here we're starting to form a little bit of a support zone with these higher lows here. Not quite breaking out yet, but it is looking a lot more positive here, especially today. There's some volume coming in here off the lows as they were pulling in. Yesterday, they were looking like they were about to fall off a cliff again, and you're seeing some volume coming in here now that Bitcoin's over 8K. It looks like some of these alts are trying to play catch up. If you look at the 4-hour charts here, you had these big volume reversals just as Bitcoin was breaking through 8K. Right now, they're just a little bit of a pause, normal pullback. From a shorter term perspective, I'm looking at some of these setups for some trade entries here on some of these pullbacks on the alts, on the USD pairs, but I'm all going to show you those, the BTC pairs here next. So I'm looking for these type of pullbacks here, these little bit of a setup here. But, you know, big picture, this is the beginnings of a potential reversal. At least the trend has now stopped, just kind of this downtrend. Now we're trying to turn the corner here, but they are certainly lagging Bitcoin here in terms of the performance. It's very evident when you look at a Bitcoin pair here on some of these charts, right? So, okay, now this is going to get ugly, guys. Close your eyes. But Ethereum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One green day out of 8, and that one green day was pretty weak. And so, still versus BTC, not showing the strength there. But zooming in a little bit here on the 4-hour charts, I'm starting to pay attention as you're starting to see some signs of maybe they're putting in a low here, right? You're seeing this big volume reversal here. Clearly has not been able to break above the 10 EMA. You saw a little attempt there and it just rolled over, no follow through. We saw a nice reversal candle here. But what I want to see now is these reversal candles hold the lows. So the lows that we saw happen yesterday, and then a break higher, clearing the moving average and starting to clear above some near-term resistance. If you start to see that showing up in more and more names, that's going to be an early indicator that, hey, maybe these alts are ready to start showing some playing catch up here versus Bitcoin. But for now, I'm just kind of watching these, but they're trying. Yesterday, they were really trying off of the lows here. Looking at I'm just going to keep going down the list here, looking at the bigger cap names. Bitcoin Cash. Speaking of Bitcoin Cash, for those of you that follow crypto, he had Roger Ver, however you say it, on his channel. He did an interview with him. So for you Bitcoin Cash fans, go check that out. So let me look at Bitcoin Cash on the dollar here first. I'm watching this potential little bull flag setting up here. Let me go to the 1-hour chart. It's a lot clearer to watch it there. You can see this small trend kind of pulling in here. Look at the volume on this pullback. That's what you like to see on a pullback after a consolidation. So volume so far has been pretty quiet here, just kind of sitting tight. And you can see it is holding above this little bit of a support breakout point here that it had yesterday. So this little resistance was cleared. We had a new high in the short run. Now we're pulling in on lower volume. Same thing on the 4-hour chart here. You can see it's pulling in quietly, and it's consolidating just below a key resistance point here. You can see that we had this prior swing high right around 870. Now we had the big pullback. Now you rallied, pulled back again. Huge volume outside, you know, bullish engulfing candle there on the 4-hour, and finally getting a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a pullback. And so this is a nice little setup here that I'm keeping an eye on for a potential move higher and a break to the upside. If it starts to break out of this little bull flag, then clearing that 872 or so is going to be a nice little breakout on Bitcoin Cash. So that's one I'm keeping an eye on. But BCH versus BTC. See here, Obviously, the chart doesn't look quite as nice on that setup, but you're seeing a potential attempt here with this big reversal candle, just like we saw in some of these other names. There was yesterday big volume, big move off the lows. Now we're pulling in. As long as that low holds and we start to make higher lows, ultimately you want to see this thing take out this resistance here versus Bitcoin. But that's the kind of patterns I'm going to be looking for now, right? These reversals off the lows, pull back, higher low, and then start moving higher. And that's going to start to indicate, hey, maybe these alts are, at least for the near term, have had enough, right? But I'm wondering, is it going to be one of those scenarios where it's like Bitcoin rallies, alts get smashed, Bitcoin pulls in, alts get smashed? Because we've seen those. I remember that. I remember seeing a market where it was like, okay, Bitcoin's going, and the alts just pull in. Okay, Bitcoin's pulling in, the alts get smashed. It's like, just couldn't win. So we certainly have seen that before. So let me go to the dominance charts here real quick, and then we'll come back to some of these other charts here. But let me pull that up here. Where are you at? Where are you at? Here we go. BTC dominance. I'll go full screen on that here real quick. And let me go for the last year. And you can see here, obviously, we had a huge peak last year. That's not the year. Here, hold on. Okay. 1 year, hold on. My chart's going crazy here. It's lagging. Okay, so here, this was the April peak here. You can see it was 45, 46%, and we're just now starting to edge higher above that. Ethereum just continues to pull in. The all other names, right? So you look at, here near the lows, 36%. The all other category was almost 27%, and now they're down to 20%. So they've had quite the pullback. And these are all the small cap names, the mid cap names, the sub, the sub 50 names here on the market cap list. And you could just see it's been the grind lower as money has. I mean, it's been a direct correlation, right? Inverse correlation to the capital flying out of those guys and into Bitcoin here. So looking at that, going to the market cap charts, which, I mean, to be fair, I don't really use these so much for any kind of decision making or anything like that. But it's always interesting to see kind of the broader trend of these things here. You can see the 1 year, right, still kind of just sitting flat, starting to turn the corner here. But considering the strong move that Bitcoin has had, this hasn't risen as much as you would have expected. And it's because this chart excluding BTC is, still below where it was in middle of July. So not quite as strong there. So let me see here. Let me go back to the list here, and we'll just kind of cycle through some of the names that I watch a little bit more on the list. So Bitcoin, we did Ethereum, we did Bitcoin Cash. Let's do Ripple. And so looking at Ripple, first dollar pair Ripple. And it was trying to hold this low here. Let me go to the daily, and you can see it was trying to establish a little bit of a low here around that 42, 43 cent mark on Ripple. And so far, I mean, it's holding, but it's not necessarily looking strong either, right? It's just kind of pulling in here, trying to form a little bit of a bottom here. It's going to have resistance going into this 50 cent mark, 51 cents. So right now, we're just in a little bit of a channel, right? So what I want to see is a break out of the upside to, over that 51 cents. And then you can get a little bit of a pullback or something like that. But for now, that 42 cents or so has got to hold, or that's going to be another big break of support. And then you can see another leg down versus BTC. Looks just like Ethereum's chart, right? Just the quick move down here. One thing I do want to point out, though, and this is important because what tends to happen, and it happens just the way it does on the way up, it happens on the way down, right? And so you can see we've been in this grind lower, grind lower, grind lower. You get these little relief rallies, grind lower, grind lower, grind lower. And then look at how the trend accelerates towards the end. I mean, just really starts to pick up some speed here. And what tends to happen is near the end of the move, you get that acceleration, right? You get the climactic effect, the capitulation, And it feels like a lot of these alts are starting to approach that. When I start looking at some of the price action that I'm seeing now, there's when things are going this fast, there's really no way to tell if, hey, that's the low until it's kind of after the fact, especially when RSI is here, right? 15 on the daily. I mean, that's extremely washed out, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to just bounce from here. But from a time perspective, to me, it feels like we're getting close. When I start seeing prices moving this fast to the downside, it tells me that we're at least getting close to a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a counter trend rally or bounce, whatever you want to call it. And so when you start to see those crazy accelerations to the downside, usually get a little bounce at least along the way. It's just like the way you do on the way up here, but there's no bullish divergence or there's none of that showing up yet. And so caution must remain on a lot of these alts until they start to confirm, right? You're never gonna catch the exact low. You kind of, I at least me, I like to prefer to wait till they at least start to show some signs of turning around and signaling that. So we'll look at EOS. We did Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum already, and then Stellar Lumen sitting at number 6 above Litecoin. So let's go to EOS first. I'm gonna go EOS BTC here. Looking at EOS BTC, once we broke below this support here a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago, we rallied, pulled back here, and this one is trying to form a little bit of a bottom here. You're seeing some potential price action showing up. This one's near the top of my list in terms of setups that I'm looking at here for once these alts decide to play catch up. EOS is one of the names that I'm really watching here as it's trying to reverse versus Bitcoin. And this one hasn't pulled back quite as much as some of these others on this rally attempt. You saw this first attempt late yesterday, little pullback, higher low on that 4-hour big engulfing candle, and now it's just sitting tight. And so I'm really watching these here. It's got a nice little bit of a setup starting to form versus BTC. And so EOS is showing some good relative strength here, kind of one of the early movers that's trying to really signal that maybe it's done. On the daily chart, obviously not anywhere near confirmation yet. You got this little doji starting to form here at the lows, but it's still living below the 10 EMA. And that's going to be the ultimate resistance to get over near term. Is going to be right around that, let's just call it 11,000 or so on the BTC pair. Now, looking at the USD side, here's another reason I'm watching EOS. I'm going to go Tether. This is forming a similar pattern to what Bitcoin was forming at the lows. I'm sure you guys can see that. But for those that are wondering what I'm talking about, you've got a big reversal pattern starting to form here. And I was watching this here on the breakout potential, right? It was initially trying to break out of a double bottom. And we had this pullback, we had this rally. And I told the group here, and I said, hey, watch out for a breakout. But if it starts to pull back, then the pattern going to be in play is going to be a inverse head and shoulder, just like we saw on BTC. And 760 was the number I was looking for. And so the reason I said 760 on the downside was I was doing a retracement analysis on this impulse move higher from 650 up to about 930. And look at where the pullback came, right to the 618 level, which was 761. The ultimate low on that candle ended up being 757. And so it just kind of really hit that same point there. And now I'm watching this move up the right side. And so it's really starting to set up here. It's lining up. It's doing kind of what I was expecting there. So obviously versus Bitcoin, the BTC pair doesn't look that strong. But I'm paying attention to these because I'm thinking that once they decide to play catch up versus Bitcoin, a lot of these setups, these reversal patterns are going to be in play. And so that's what I'm going to be looking at. So EOS is one that I'm looking at for a trade there. All right, let me catch up with some of these comments because you guys are scrolling quick. We've got 500 plus people here. Remember to hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not all bad news. I know the alts are really, really taking a smacking right here, but it's not all bad. A lot of it is bad, but it's not all bad. And hey, Bitcoin's over $8,000. Keep hodling. You sold ADA. All right, let me see here. Everyone's bullish again. How does one know when to take profits? Oh, that's a good question. And I'll be honest with you, the sell side, for me at least, the sell side is much harder than getting, the protective side, right? Taking profits, knowing when to let the winners run and when not to and all that. From a trading perspective, it's as simple as just trailing the stop up or selling into resistance points. But from a long-term perspective, that's a lot harder to do, right? If you're doing a long-term HODL account, like when do you decide to move money back and forth between names? And I just learned a long time ago to just ring the register, as they say, right? From time to time, just cash in when things look, like they're really strong. And yeah, you might leave some money on the table, but a lot of times it tends to work out. And so EOS was a good example of that here. I had switched out of BTC back in here when EOS was starting to make these climactic lows. I actually got in a little early, right? I thought this was the low. Started to cycle out of Bitcoin into EOS there. Then we had that quick spike. But then we had a very nice rally, and into this rally, I started to sell. I took a little bit here along the way, switched back to Bitcoin, and then I remember I was at a conference in LA when EOS was right here, and it was trading for like 21 or 22 bucks, and everybody was just so ecstatic about EOS and excited about how much EOS they owned, and everybody was just like literally everybody I talked to was talking about EOS, 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 EOS. And to me, that was kind of a good contrarian signal. I said, hey, what the hell? I've had this big run. Worst case scenario, I got to buy it on a pullback. And so I switched all of my EOS back out to Bitcoin. And here I am looking at it again saying, okay, might be time to switch some back in right there. So, but it's tough, right? Selling is definitely one of the harder ones because, we've all done it, right? Where you're like, you sell right here, you're like, bam, I sold right there. I'm the smartest guy in the world. And then it goes up like, another 100%. Everyone's done that. And so you're just like, oh, wait, no, maybe I sold too early. And so, but if you're trading, it's a little easier because you could do stops, you could trail it, you can trail a moving average. You can do a couple of different things, but long-term HODLs, stuff like that, most of the time it's not as, flexible, not as fluid as some of these other names. So, but EOS BTC here is looking like it may be putting in a little bit of a low. So definitely one I'm keeping an eye on here. So let's keep going. And I'm seeing the names coming in. So I will be looking at some of those that you guys are asking about here. Stellar Lumens. So I'm watching Stellar from the USD pair. It's setting up a little bit of an ascending triangle on this consolidation here. Let me go to the Tether pair on Stellar Lumens. And so I'll go to the 4-hour chart here and look at that. Beautiful. Just a nice little looking chart here. So we've had this big rally. Remember, this pattern is a continuation pattern. It's a consolidation pattern. And so you had that big move off the lows. Now, Stellar was one of the stronger of the Coinbase 5, as I would call them here. That was the Coinbase announcement, right, that they were considering Stellar as one of their names, and you can see it had a very mild pullback compared to some of the other names and has since had a strong move. This was on the back of some additional news, IBM, stablecoin, all kinds of other stuff happening, but strong move here. And now we're putting in this big consolidation here near the highs. And so it's looking pretty good. Could it just totally roll over and break down? Absolutely, right? So I'm going to be looking for a potential breakout here on Stellar and then another run higher. But right now, this consolidation is looking good. It's starting to form an ascending triangle pattern here in the big scheme of things. So definitely one to be watching. Looking at it from a BTC pair, I'll go Bittrex. Bittrex? Yeah, we'll do Bittrex. I don't really trade on Bittrex much these days. But looking at it from this perspective, you're kind of getting a little bit of a retracement here on this daily. So I'd like to see this downtrend that it's currently in get taken out and start closing above this downtrend. Right now, it's right back to the 10 EMA on the daily. And so that's a pretty good pullback here. It's trying to hold the low it had 3 days ago. And so one definitely keep an eye on here. This has been enough of a pullback to kind of cool things off enough and would certainly support another leg up if it wanted to go. And so I'm liking the lumens. All right, Litecoin. Litecoin. Oh man, Litecoin. Here. It's trying. Let me go to the 4-hour chart because yesterday was have that big reversal bar. Was kind of one of the bigger performers yesterday when things started to kind of move higher here on the alt side. And you can see there, big outside reversal bar, bullish engulfing candle, pulling in. But as long as that low of that candle holds, it's going to remain valid. And so that's looking pretty good. Let me put the volume back in there. You can see the volume on that little pop off the lows was very strong buying volume there. The biggest volume that it's seen in quite some time. And so that's looking pretty good from a Litecoin perspective. Looking at Litecoin on the dollar pair. I'll go to Coinbase for that. Clearing some initial resistance right around that $85 mark. You can see here, this is what I was looking at, right? This little zone was an area of resistance, bouncing in, pulling in, and then in just one candle, strong move on well above average volume. And here it is just kind of forming a little bit of a bull pennant here as it sits tight in this little bit of a range. And so definitely want to keep an eye on. It looks really good here. And this looks like it wants to get going. So I'm liking a Litecoin again here at these lows. Litecoin, is it dead? Well, maybe, but the chart looks okay here. It looks better than it did a couple of days ago. But long term, is it dead? Who knows? I don't think so personally. I think Litecoin will remain for now. All right, let's keep going. So we'll look at, I'm going to go through the top 10, not Tether, and then I'll exclude, and then I'll just kind of hop around and we'll go from there and see what some of the other charts are looking like. See if there's any good setups here. You guys need to help me find some good trading setups. I need to do some trades here. All right, Cardano. Looking at Cardano here. I'm watching Cardano here. I'm actually liking this because yesterday, you know, it was looking like this was maybe going to start to form a double top if it broke below this area. Clearly it didn't. And so now what I'm looking at is, hey, this is a nice little symmetrical pattern that's starting to form on Cardano. And so we'll see if it can hold. Here, let me fix it to make it look a little easier to see there. And I'm on Bittrex here, but I'll pull up another exchange. But you can see, you know, just kind of the broader equilibrium pattern that's starting to form here. It's just starting to really narrow out. And it's kind of one of those next move wins type of setups here, right? It could break up, it could break down. But I'm liking the way this is looking right now, especially with the volume coming in off the lows here. Now, Cardano BTC is trying, and it's also having a big reversal here at the lows with some good volume. And same scenario here, right? As long as this candle holds a low right around that 2023 or so, then that's going to be valid. But I want to see some continuation. I want to see this thing break above the declining moving average. All this is an attempt right now. This is an attempt to stop the quick pullback versus Bitcoin. Now they just need to show some follow through and show that, hey, this is kind of be a good intermediate low. Right now, we don't have confirmation of that, but the setups are certainly starting to form there. So they're starting to look a little bit better. Quick drink some water here. If Litecoin gets to 350, I'll sell for a bit. Yeah, I think a lot of people would. If Litecoin went to 350, I'm sure there's going to be some profit taken. Okay, I'm just kind of scrolling through these comments. Yeah, Litecoin's not bad, guys. I mean, I don't think it is. $87 Litecoin. Hey, it's a good pullback, a big pullback in the big scheme of things, but starting to form a little bit of a low here. So we'll see if it can hold. That $73 seems to be so far the kind of near-term low. Ultimately, if it starts to get above, you know, $90, $94 or so, that's going to be a nice nice turn of the trend here. So I was watching that window up there. Now I'm looking at this little zone here as a potential kind of first resistance that it's got to conquer that. All right. Thank you guys. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the BitConnect. BitConnect. And we'll do IOTA and Tron, and then we will take a look at some of the others. IOTA. Looking at IOTA Tether here first because it's right at the lows. And it was not looking pretty yesterday. And to be honest, it's still not. It's got to really take this out because right now what I'm seeing is just a big descending triangle. Actually, let me go to Bitfinex. It's got a lot more history. Bitfinex. There we go. And here we go. So I already had the chart marked up here. Let me squeeze that up here and make it easier to see. So you can see we had this. We're at a key support zone, right? This was the low in April. And we had that nice rally. I mean, that was that was what, 200%, 150% rally. That was massive. 186% rally. And it's fully retraced that. And we've had these little rally attempts since then, but the rally attempts are starting to get smaller and smaller. And so it's got to break out of this trend, because at the moment, to me, this is just a descending triangle. You could call it a bear pennant off the lows. It's just not strong, right? So it's got to hold this support. If it breaks below this, call it 90 cents, 89 cents or so, that's not going to look pretty on the chart. But ultimately, what I want to see is it take out this little bit of a downtrend that it's in, and getting above that dollar mark again would certainly start to show some life. So IOTA USD. Let's look at IOTA BTC. And that one's breaking below support on the Bitcoin chart. So this is Bitcoin daily. And you can see here, this long time support. This was the base way back here last year, late last year. We touched this versus Bitcoin in March, and then again in April, and almost to the penny. It held. And then we had that big rally. And here we are breaking below it here over the last 2 days. And so could be a fake out, but if that's the case, it's going to have to recover like very quickly in the next day or two. Tron. It was trying a couple days ago. My chart's lagging. Here we go. So Tron, let me clear the volume here. Looking at Tron longer term trend, you can see this white trend line that I have drawn here. It was kind of supporting, rising support. We touched it here, and then we had this little fake out, breakout, and then just pulled right back in. But on the positive here at the lows, this is some strong volume coming in here. So we'll see if it can finally turn the corner there. But near term, not looking, or the daily chart's not looking that great here because it broke below that support. But near term, definitely one of the stronger names. I think it was probably, other than like EOS and Litecoin, was probably the strongest name off the move yesterday here. So you had that big reversal candle. We had the pullback higher low, and here it is kind of sitting tight. Tons of volume coming in too, but this seller up here was an ugly reversal, but it's looking a little bit better here. Tron Tether looking much stronger from that perspective. You can see we cleared this little resistance around 36.5 cents or so, and it's holding. It's holding so far. So that's looking pretty good there. The fact that it's kind of sitting. Like to see this consolidation play out a little bit longer here on this 4 hour and set up for another move higher on Tron. So question here, how do you feel about Bitcoin price increasing, but the market cap really isn't increasing? What does that mean? And so, yeah, I kind of hinted on that already. That's this right here. That's the BTC dominance, right? And what that basically means is capital is moving out of the alts and into Bitcoin. And you can see that from the charts here, right? You're looking at the BTC chart, and it's just going straight up. And you're looking at these alt charts and versus Bitcoin, they're taking a massive hit. And that's basically the rotation, right? You're seeing capital just come out of the alts and continue to drive into BTC and push that higher. And so that's why you're seeing Bitcoin rise so much with the market cap staying flat. And I'll be honest with you guys, going into July, I was looking for a rally. I was looking for a strong market in July. And we got it from a Bitcoin perspective, but clearly we did not get it from an altcoin perspective. And so I'll be honest, that was a little bit of was not expecting that, right? I was thinking, hey, Bitcoin's about to break out. It's going to break the $6,800 mark and shoot up to around, 7,700, maybe 8K. And my expectation was in that scenario, the alts are going to do fabulous. Clearly that didn't happen, and that's largely because of the reason, the catalyst for part of this move, and that's the ETF, right? The anticipation behind a Bitcoin ETF. And so people would rather be positioned in Bitcoin, because if that happens, the expectation is you get the big Bitcoin pop or further alt selling. And so that's why you're seeing the market cap kind of just sit tight. It's going up a little bit, but it's sitting tight, relatively speaking, considering Bitcoin has had a 45% move off of the lows, right? You would have thought by now we'd be at market cap, 350 or something, but we're not. You just wanted to thank me for the great class, easy to understand, cover the basis. Thank you. Appreciate that. And yeah, I've got more stuff coming, guys. We've got a trading, what I would call the trading course, right? Because my first course was purely just technical analysis, chart basics, all that stuff. This next course won't cover the basics. So if you don't know how to read candlestick charts, or if you're not familiar with the basics around support, resistance, trend lines, then definitely need to do that one first. But the next course will be a little bit more for the next level and looking at actual strategies, right? Trading strategies that I use, risk management principles, stop loss strategies, and all that fun stuff. So look out for that. All right. Neo, we will do Neo. We will do Monero. I was liking Monero here. Take a look at that one. Is this the definition of a pre-post party? Maybe. Oh, man. I'm reading the comments. Sorry about the quiet there. ICX will certainly do that. New money isn't coming in like people think. That's a good question. And I would agree. I don't believe the new money's coming in. I think some of the crypto veterans may be putting in new money at the lows. But as far as like people who have never invested in crypto suddenly can't take it anymore because everyone's talking about it on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere, and I got to buy me some Bitcoin, that's certainly not happening. And so you're definitely not getting the huge influx of people pouring in money into Coinbase and all that fun stuff. You're not there yet, which is fine. Which is just fine for me, because that tends to happen at the later stages of a move, and we're so early on right now that I'm glad new money isn't coming in just yet. Now, new institutional money is certainly starting to look at crypto, right? And it's kind of funny because you look at the institutional money, and I think there was an article here, but it's almost funny how the banks are kind of like real shy about admitting, like it's taboo. They're like, we are quote unquote considering crypto. It's like nobody wants to be the first one to come out and say, heck yeah, we fully embrace crypto, right? JP Morgan and Goldman and all those guys. Nobody wants to be that first bank, but you can tell they're just kind of all like, yeah, we're looking at it, from the side. We're checking it out. We're investigating it. It's blah, blah, blah. But, deep down inside, they're just like, hurry, guys, how do we get in on this? And I think once you see a few of those banks kind of publicly start coming out of the closet, oh, we've been into crypto for the last 2 years, we just never said anything, then you're going to see a lot more influx coming in. Good morning from Australia. Aussie friends in the house. Yeah, I saw that. Charlie Lee said he's going to push it to 400. Maybe he bought a bunch. I keep joking around. I keep joking that you're going to see a tweet from Charlie Lee saying, I bought all my Litecoin back at $100. And then, 3 years from now, we'll see the same tweet again. Oh, guys, I just sold all my Litecoin. Hey, why not, right? If he can. Sure, he can do whatever he wants. All right, so let's keep going here. I'm going to do Monero. Looking at the Monero dollar pair first. And, I've been watching this one too, because it is showing some signs of accumulation here on the dollar pair. It's starting to form a little bit of a low. You can see the daily chart had that big slide. And here it is right around that 120, 140 mark, just really starting to form a little bit of a channel. Here it's trying to break out of there. That's the clear resistance point there, closing above 145 or so would start to signal that it's starting to edge out. And over the last couple of days versus BTC, it is starting to hold up a little bit, right? It's starting to form a low. What I was watching here is, try to form this low here. No, yesterday was pulling in. Maybe not. Maybe not. Not there yet. Oh, yeah, I was looking at this back here thinking it's trying, but it's not confirming. It's still making lower lows versus Bitcoin there. Neo. Oh, Neo. $33 Neo. So looking at Neo, some of you guys have already mentioned, yeah, there's this bear pennant that's forming. Certainly something to watch, but it could just as easily break to the upside here. So I'm following this big pullback here. We've started to kind of coil up here, getting a little symmetrical. This current daily bar actually looks pretty positive. It needs to get above the 10 EMA, but the volume there is very positive. The fact that it held this, excuse me, it held this low right around that $31 mark. That looks good. And so I'm definitely keeping an eye on it here. It needs to continue to break out of this pattern. A break above 40 would be very strong and would kind of signal some continued trend rotation and maybe another move up. But right now, hey, if you really like NEO, it's kind of at a key support level. So it's got a hold here. And you can see on the 4-hour, this one was trying here yesterday. Big volume off the lows, had the big rally. And now it's pulling in a little bit. And I'm watching these pullbacks. So I really like these pullbacks right here. They're on quiet volume. They're kind of contained. And so I'm going to be keeping an eye on some of these, because if they start to reverse out of these pullbacks and start to clear some near-term resistance, it's going to be a potential early entry for me on a trade. And so that's what I'm going to be looking at. Now, NEO BTC. Okay, everybody close your eyes. Oh, it's not too bad. You can open them. It's not as bad as some of these others, but it is not pretty. So looking at some of these, you can see this new lower low starting to form here, but there are starting to see some bullish divergence on this RSI on the daily, which again, it's signaling maybe the selling momentum is waning. It's not necessarily a buy signal. It's not necessarily a we're done going down signal, because the price could just continue to drop so far that this RSI continues lower and then that divergence is gone, right? And so it's an early indicator, but ultimately you want to see some confirmation with a big reversal candle that takes out, say the last 3 days or something like that. Then that would be a nice kind of early confirmation that was good intermediate low coming in. But hey, I think it's looking pretty good here in terms of longer term potential here. NEO weekly here is it's kind of a no man's land there. So that's what I'm looking at there on NEO. Let's see here. Let me scroll through some of these. Binance, 0x, Zill. Oh man, Zill. Good evening from Germany. We did check Cardano, and I'm liking Cardano. I will quickly pull it up and then we'll cycle through some of these other names here. But Cardano, I'm watching this here. Had that nice move off the low on the dollar pair and is forming this little symmetrical pattern. And I'm watching this for a potential breakout. It looks like it's ready to go here. And so from this side, it's looking good. Obviously, from a BTC side, not as pretty, but it is trying to form a low here. So definitely want to keep an eye on ICX. So looking at ICX there. Man, ICX, when are you going to stop going down already? I got to keep moving my lines on the chart. Yeah, this one, there's look at that. Almost fully retraced this entire move from earlier this year. Just a brutal pullback on ICX. It's probably been one of the weakest of the platform names. And you can see here on the RSI daily chart, I mean, this is down to 20 now. And so certainly washed out, but certainly no signs of a low. I mean, you could have said, 4 days ago, hey, that was the low, and things looked pretty rough there, but we're still going lower here. So, it's just kind of one of those wait till it turns. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I mean, the good thing is when they do turn, you get kind of a quick initial bounce, and it would not surprise me to see one daily candle that just kind of takes out the last 3 or 4 or even more, right? That's very common, and you tend to see that, especially on the names that are just very beaten up. They tend to have that quick snap back off of the lows, but for now, not quite there yet. Now looking at the 4-hour, it's still making lower lows here. It tried here and technically broke below that, so we'll see if it can bottom out here, but not too pretty yet. Ontology. Slovenia in the house. All right. That's what I love about crypto. Amsterdam. It's just, we're just so global. It's a beautiful thing. Got people in my group from all over the world. It's like any time of the day I go on the Slack channel and there's somebody there. I love it. And usually it's like there's somebody there and I'm like, hey, where are you? It's like my day and they're like in China or something. I'm like, wow, you guys don't ever sleep. I thought I was bad. All right. Looking at Zil, looking at the Zilica. So I'm going to do the daily chart here first because I am watching this here. It has had a retracement. I've already got this lined up. So looking at, it might be hard to see on the chart here. Let me close the volume here. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm not going to change the lines. Yeah, I will. I will, just for you guys. Let me see here. Visibility, style, lines. No, not that line. Level lines. Here we go. So just kind of doing a quick fib analysis, right? Going from the entire move from the bottom to the very peak, you can see here this level has come all the way back to the 786, and that is a massive retracement. But I mean, ideally, that's kind of like the last line, if you will, that it needs to hold if it's gonna find a place to bounce from. It just, most other levels have just been, you know, not even there, right? It tried here a little bit at the 50%, rallied, and then just kind of pulled back. Next rally was right up to the 50%, pulled back. 618 didn't even matter. So here we are at 786. So if you like the project long time, right, you start paying attention at these levels because this is where you look for potential signs of reversals that, hey, maybe this is an intermediate low, we're going to rally. You never know if it's going to be just one of these pops and then just gives it all up, right? Ultimately, no one knows. But from a long-term perspective, you know, this is the type of levels that you start looking at it and saying, hey, this might be it. It might not, though. And we've seen other names that just continue lower and make new lows, right? And we'll look at a few here in a sec, but something I'm watching. Now, near term, you can see this little cluster of activity starting to show up here on the 4 hour. It's getting real choppy. There's a little bit of a battle going on with the buyers and the sellers. Look at the volume starting to come in. So that's positive. And the fact that it's happening right at this key retracement level is good news, but it hasn't confirmed. It hasn't confirmed. It needs to start showing some follow through to the upside. But that's certainly a little bit of a battle going on there. Some accumulation potentially showing up. San Francisco, South Africa in the house. All right. Estonia, Mexico. All right. Let's see here. Miami in the house. I'll be in Florida next week. All right. Let's see here. Ontology. Yes, ontology. Thank you for reminding me. I think I was going to do that one last, but or before Zil. So looking at ontology, man, this one has had a brutal retracement on ontology here. Is it done? Is it done going down? Let's do a quick fib analysis on this guy. Just go end to end, just like we did on Zil. Go from there to there, roughly right at 786. It's it gonna hold. Oh man, you're right at a key support level there. But most other levels, I mean, just sliced right through it. Weren't even there from a support resistance level. You're kind of in no man's land right now, but you are approaching the last little base it had, really the first little base that it had, you know, the ICO base as you call it. This first debut had that rally the flag, and then this was kind of the run up after that. And so you're approaching that right now, and this is going to really be the must hold level. But man, what a pullback it's had. And right now there's no signs of the buyers showing up just yet. Let's go a little deeper and look at the 4 hour chart. ADX, didn't do ADX. We've only covered the big cap names right now, but there's this, just like Zil, right? You're seeing some potential volume coming in, not as strong as the Zil chart at the lows, but something to watch here. It's trying, but I mean, it's not even above the 10 EMA on the 4 hour chart. So way too early to tell. It's certainly not showing any bullish strength yet versus Bitcoin, but this is a good low to be watching. This first 4 hour candle, that big outside candle that we had late yesterday, that's going to be the key level to watch. If it holds that and starts to reverse higher, then that will look positive. Sweden. Hey, Mars in the house. How's the weather up in Mars these days? Oh, let's see here. You feel like you're part of some elite social club. You are. I mean, when you think about it, there's a lot of people that like crypto and buy Bitcoin, but then there's people like you guys that take it a level deeper and really get into the crypto and the TA and the trading and all this fun stuff. And there's some smart people in crypto, man. A lot of you guys know a lot about these projects, the technical aspects of all that good stuff. And man, you guys are weird. I got to tell you, you go talk to your friends and neighbors about what you're doing every day, and they're going to be like, what? What are you talking about? Ontology? Say what? That's the look I get. All right. Holland. All right. We'll do ARC. Now, ARC did have an inverse cup and handle pattern that I was watching a few days ago. Let's see how that played out. I'll do ARC on Binance there, and that was a big breakdown from that cup and handle pattern. And so what I'm looking at here, let me kind of show you what I'm looking at. An inverse cup and handle pattern is basically the opposite of a normal cup and handle. So normal cup and handle breaks out higher. And you can see here, this was an inverse. We had this rally, and then you had this little handle form right there. And when that breaks lower, that is no good. It basically breaks below these two lows, the cup lips, as you will. And on the flip side, that's what you want to see when things are going higher, right? You want to see the rally, that kind of a pause. I mean, that was beautiful setup there from a cup and handle perspective, but obviously it broke. And here it is getting quick smackdown. And look at that. It looks like climactic action to me. You're getting that big volume spike here at the lows, a big reversal attempt. Coming off the exact low, that's up around 17% here. Let me take a deeper dive on the 4-hour chart here. Certainly feels climactic, but is it done? Is it the end? We got to see if this low holds here. Confirmation would be just kind of breaking this downtrend that it's been in here just in the last couple of days. So that's what I'd be looking for on ARC. Just kind of looking for a break of that. And there'd be a little bit of an early indicator that maybe it's done, but bigger picture, not looking pretty yet on ARC. It was setting up too, man. I was really liking the setup on ARC on the weekly. Just didn't follow through. Melissa in the house. ARC looks good. Just buy the dip. One of these days, I'm going to do that. And then when it goes up 100%, I'm going to say, thank you. Thank you for the tip. All right, let's keep going here. We did Ontology. We did Zilla, Crypto Nerds, ARC. We did not do BNB. Let's do BNB here because BNB. Okay, first off, the ugly chart, BNB versus BTC. And this is the level I was watching. It's already got marked up there. This breakout point, right? When Bitcoin or Binance went to new highs versus Bitcoin and it broke out, had that nice rally. And, during this rally, it's real interesting to see that Binance was kind of the port in the storm. I mean, remember, everything was going down here, and Binance was one of the few names that was just bucking the trend and moving higher and looking nice. And then it had this little double top, kind of hard to see now, but had that double top. And since then, just pulled back. And I was watching the support. I was looking at this going, all right, if it's going to hold, this is where you're going to do it. And once it broke, I mean, just really accelerated down below that support. You can see following that break. Sorry, let me pull this back. You had a quick 22% move to the bottom. And now you're at the next support level here on Binance BTC, but that chart just is not looking pretty hot right now. But you're seeing you're basically touching that next level down. Now, Binance Tether pair, it's at a key support level, and I'm liking this chart. Excuse me. I'm liking this setup here from a potential bounce, right? And that's really all I'm looking at here at this point. But you can see it's rallying, and this is the same scenario. If it breaks below, starts to close below this 1150, 1170 zone, that's not going to look pretty, especially with the BTC chart looking the way it is. And so this is the level that I'm watching here. It's basically hit the downside target. I saw this little head and shoulder pattern forming on the 4-hour. you can see I put my little arrow there, and I said, looks like Binance is about to test the lows again. And I mean, to the penny, it went right back to that point. Then it just kind of been sitting flat here at this point. So nothing to do yet, but definitely at a key support zone here from the USD pair at least. Shitcoin. Oh, you crack me up. Okay. What do you think about having master nodes? You know, that's a good question, especially with my name being Node Investor, and everybody thinks that I just have like all these master nodes. Here's the thing with master nodes, right? I mean, when you think about it, there's only two reasons you really want to buy a master node. One, you really want the project to succeed. You want to support it. You think master nodes are good. They're part of the ecosystem. Fabulous, right? If you want to do that, that's a good reason to have a master node. Two is, hey, the dividends, right? I buy the master node and it kicks off some coin and I get X percent, 7% ROI, 100% or whatever, right? You get some ROI. And in that regard, your master node is like having a dividend stock, right? That's the whole reason you buy such a large quantity, is to cash in on the dividends. For me, the price volatility and the price risk far outweigh any potential master node benefit from the dividend perspective. It's the same reason I don't buy dividend stocks, because of that same reason. Like, I'm like, okay, why do I want to hold a stock that gives me 3% a year when it could drop 3% in a month? Like, that to me makes no sense, right? Unless it's like a stock you think is going to be around for 50 years and you do that, or okay, whatever. But that's just me. And so because of the risk, I don't. Now, if you're looking at master nodes now, right, when prices are just like crazy cheap, it might make some sense. And then you get a little bit of added benefit if the coin moves up and you're getting a little ROI on the way up. That's great. But the price volatility risk generally far outweighs the master node. And you know, in traditional low risk investments, 7% is a huge return. In crypto, at least for me, 7% is nothing, right? It's like some of these names move up and down 7% every day. So the volatility there, it makes it tough to justify locking up that much of any single coin. So that's my my thoughts on master nodes. I don't have anything against them, but if some of these names were a little bit more stable, I might look at some. And I have looked at a few over the years, over the months, I mean, but just decided not to. All right, let's keep going here. I mean, the only master node that I was thinking about buying was the chain coin. I was going to buy like $1 million worth of chain coin. Ooh, sorry, is that still a sore spot for some of you guys? Chain coin. Let's go see how chain coin. Oh, look at that, chain coin still here, rank 848. What do you know? And it still trades $1,200 a day. That's amazing. All right, let's keep going. We're descending into the realm of. All right, let's see. So some of these other names, Omise Go, man, OMG. Neo to gas, yeah, same thing, right? Now, I mean, to be fair, at these levels, right, if you're picking up a lot of these coins, you might be picking them up for the value, but if you're getting that extra benefit of gas or ROI, then great. But to me, that's not going to be the primary reason I buy a name. Man, OMG just kind of hit these levels, continue to make lower lows, getting smacked here. No signs of a low yet. I'd like to see some volume come in on some of these names at these lows. It's trying. So this was, again, similar to some of these other names here, had a, let me pull this up here, you know, had this big wick on big volume. So that's good. Got to hold that now, right? That's going to be the candle to be watching here in the near term. And then a closing above that, it's going to start to signal, hey, maybe this is going to start to reverse and move higher there. So looking pretty good from that very near term perspective here. Looking at OMG dollar. Yeah, a lot of charts do look the same. And that, you know, that's just the big correlation that we have in crypto. Looking at OMG dollar, you can see I was already watching this. Sorry about that. The same pattern here, right? We got this potential descending triangle coming in at the lows, generally a bearish pattern that breaks. But until it breaks, you gotta watch this level, right? This is right now the level to be watching. So a closing around that 650 or so is going to be the level to be watching. And if it starts to break above this trend line and ideally closing above this $8 mark, then that'll start to negate this pattern and start to signal, hey, we're turning the corner here. So it could still break out to the upside. Just wanted to be watching here. Versus BTC, it's showing a little life. But yeah, every bounce is a lower high, and that's by definition a descending triangle. Yeah, staking nodes, master nodes. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Once it starts to get pretty technical, because they're not all made the same. They're not all equal, right? There's different types of nodes and master nodes and super nodes and staking nodes and gas and proof of influence and proof of this and proof of. I mean, it's a lot. Digibyte. Oh man, Digibyte. I was watching it set up yesterday. I was thinking maybe it's gonna go, and it didn't. But it's trying. It had that big wick to the downside. I was watching this little pattern here forming, and it's still kind of in play, but it would have been a lot nicer if would have held this support line here and then broke out to the upside. So that's what I was watching yesterday. For now that it's kind of had this little break lower, it's kind of not as exciting. But if it totally reverses at this point, I'm going to be waiting for a break above this resistance. Right, that's going to be just kind of near term, the level I'd rather see it get above. Let's take a quick look at Bitcoin here real quick. How are things doing over there? It's kind of in and around that $8,200 mark. Still holding up. Bitcoin, this is the hourly view on Bitcoin. 83 has just been kind of that resistance zone for now. You're seeing a lot of selling volume show up anytime it tries to get above that $83 mark. So 8,300. All right, let's keep going here. We'll do a few more, guys. We've been going for about an hour. Mana. Mana, that's been a tough one just because it's been a pump and dump favorites and all that stuff. I like Mana personally. I think the project's great. I want them to succeed. I think having something like Mana would be really cool. But you can see you got these crazy wicks to the upside. They're just huge volume. It's just that just makes it tough, right? It just makes it tough to do anything with. Now, from a long-term perspective, like I said, I like Mana. I think it has some good potential. There's a marketplace, and once they're releasing the SDK, and once things actually start to get used, it could really turn into something there. But for now, this chart is very choppy, just very volatile. So I think this one's one you got to take a little bit more longer point of view on. Have I done BAT? No, let's do BAT. I forgot about the BAT. Looking at BAT, basic attention here. Kind of zoom out a little bit here because there's a couple of things to watch. I mean, it is forming this, it's trying to break about this big resistance here. On the daily chart, I was watching a little bit more, or the weekly chart, I guess you can say, there was a little bit more of a symmetrical pattern forming on the weekly, and it's still kind of in that zone. That's what I was watching on BAT here. It's gonna be hard to see. And rarely do I look at the weeklies from this perspective, but it's still setting up, and it technically broke out, right? Because that was the level that I was watching, and then this was the Coinbase announcement week, and we're kind of seeing a little bit of pullback, but it's right back to that breakout point, and so should be watched. It's going to be an interesting one to see how it reacts if and when Coinbase decides to start trading it. And so it's been very volatile too. Another one that I was watching here a couple days ago and had this huge spike. I'm like, okay, what was that? And just totally reversed, and then another big spike. And it's just, from a trading perspective, that I just will stay away from those kind of names. Now, from a long-term perspective, right, there's, that's kind of small wiggles in the big scheme of things, but just very choppy. It seems like there's some distribution happening here near these highs. So just something to keep an eye on there. Yeah, somebody knows something. Okay, question on here. What do you use for crypto trading? What platforms? Yeah, there's some like expensive platforms that you can trade with, that you could pay for, and that'll kind of merge all your accounts. I don't. I keep it simple. Now you can trade directly out of these charting platforms if you'd like Coinigy or TradingView, and you can link your trading exchange API to these. I don't. I just go straight directly into the exchange, and I use this as my charting package and go from there. I'll use this for alerts. I'll use this for setting those type of things. But the actual trading is discretionary directly in the exchange accounts. No trading view equals free. Coinigy is paid. That's correct. And so I pay for both of them. If you don't want to pay for both of them, I would say maybe you can do a 30-day trial on this guy, and if you really like it, then you can decide, hey, I'll pay for this. They have their pros and cons. Personally, if I had to pick just one, I like TradingView, just the way it feels, the way it functions. It's just a lot cleaner. But there are some benefits to Coinigy that are not on TradingView. Plus, they have some of their charts, right? Like you get the KuCoin names on here. You've got a lot more exchanges because this is purely crypto specific, whereas TradingView, there's stocks, futures, forex, indices, all this other stuff here, and they don't have every crypto exchange on here. So they have most of the major ones, but they don't have every crypto exchange. So there's some pros and cons. All right, so let's keep it going. Oh, Ethos, man, Ethos, BQX. Ethos, where's the bottom, Ethos? Still getting smacked here. I was watching this one earlier. I was checking that out to see if it was forming a low. It was trying a few days ago, but just still living below the 10 EMA on that daily, and that's it's short-term signal for me. That's just, if it's living below that, that just tells me that, yeah, even if it's a bounce and it just bounces right into that, that's all it is a bounce, right? So you want to see a little bit more than that. One more leg up to Bitcoin, 8790, 8900. Man, that would be fabulous, right? If we did. It's going to be interesting to see what it does from here, just because, I mean, the daily chart is just as strong as we've seen in forever. But it is getting a little extended. Could it go higher? Absolutely. It is starting to feel a little extended. And it's interesting to see that it's approaching, this resistance line. Do we break out? Do we break above it? I mean, it's basically edging out now. Does it hold? This daily chart or daily candle, it's got about 2 hours left in it. So it's going to be interesting to see how the day closes. But for now, everything is just very strong. Volume is there. So it's looking good here near term from that perspective. Bitcoin's still the place to be, man. TradingView is cheaper and all around the best crypto. Yeah, I prefer to pay for. I mean, I pay for both, but I prefer TradingView personally. Any buy setups you'd like to share? I'm looking at a few. I'm looking at BCH here potentially, and I covered this at the beginning on the dollar pair. This is setting up a little bit of a bull flag that I'm keeping an eye on. It looks like it's trying to edge out. Had that nice rally, a little bit of a pullback. You can see the. Let me go to the hourlies here real quick. So I'm watching this setup here, holding support. This consolidation was on declining volume. I mean, just all the marks are there. What I like to see. It's also consolidating right below this key resistance point here. So there's that. There's that. You can argue that this is a big cup and handle type of thing forming, but it's looking good from that perspective from a trading setup. And so this is one I'm watching here near term. Stellar Lumens is another one here. XLM dollar. A little bit of an ascending triangle in the big picture. This is a little bit bigger of a chart here. So if I go to the 4 hour, you can see this pullback with this resistance zone here as this higher highs or higher lows start to form there. So a couple of those setups that I'm watching here in the near term. Still kind of watching the charts here. EOS, I mentioned this one at the beginning. EOS Tether is forming this big inverse head and shoulder pattern, just like BTC was. And so it looks like it's trying to edge out of that. getting above $9 is going to look positive there and could set up a good run. So there are certainly some good ones in there. It's not all bad. So there's a question on here. Given the chart time to let the RSI catch up. No, I think let me kind of mix that up. I think I'm mixing those up because I give the chart time to let the moving average catch up. Right? That's generally what you want to see. So like an example would be right here. Right here, see? Sorry, I'm lagging there. An example would be right here. So you got the strong move and the moving average is way down here. You need time to let it catch up. And you can see it pulls back, usually there's a little bit of a pause and entry, and then it goes again. So that's moving average catching up. RSI, I use it especially at the extremes. It comes in handy for looking at divergences. So another example would be on this chart, same thing. You can see you got a lower low here on the price, but not a lower low on the RSI. That's a bullish divergence there. And at that point, you start to look for potential reversals in the price action. And so that's how I use the RSIs, especially at the extreme. I also use RSI bands, and that's just something I've kind of developed on my own over the years. And so, traditional RSI is, you look at the 50 mark, it's very similar to using the 0 line on the MACD. And so traders will use the 50 mark as kind of, hey, if it's above 50, it's bullish. If it's below 50, it's not. I don't necessarily use that signal. I tend to use a zone. And so for me, when RSI is below 60, it's still technically in the bear zone. And if it's below, well, let's put it this way. In a strong market, it'll bottom out around 40. And in a weak market, it'll top out around 60. It's probably an easier way to say it. And so that's what I look for. I kind of see which zone in this range the RSI is living in, and I use that for trading. So you can see here, EOS during this whole consolidation, RSI 40 has held. And so that's positive because it tells me that we're still, coming off this high, we're bottoming out in and around that 40. And so that tells me it's still in the bull zone, if you will. And then vice versa, during these big pullbacks, you can see it was topping out around 60, right? RSI would bounce, it hit 60, it would hit 60, it would hit 60, it would hit 60. And so until it finally breaks that trend, to me, it's still living in the bear zone. So that's how I use the RSI. It's a secondary indicator, though. I mean, at the end of the day, price and volume are kind of the most important things to me. Do I use any specific tools for volume alerts? We have a proprietary alert system that we have developed, and it has one volume alert in there. I'm looking at a couple of others, but it's got this power pivot, which is a variant of the pocket pivot established by Morales and team. But this one is more than just volume. It's volume plus some additional screens. And this indicator alert is very beneficial in a consolidation phase. And so I look for that because you look for these power pivots at the bottom of a formation, right? At a double bottom, at a inverse head and shoulder, or something like that. So let's see what we got here. We got Zen, we've got Ven, we've got Tron. We had a bunch yesterday when the market really started to kind of show that initial leg off the lows. We looked at most of these: Monero, ETH, Bitcoin Cash, Zcash. So let's go look at some of those. So Zen, I think that's not a power pivot though. That's probably already on the move. Yeah, so see it flashed right here on this spike right there. So that was kind of the initial move here. Let me pull the volume back up. Yep, look at that big volume spike there. So and this is 4-hour charts. It's based on the 4-hour, and so it's a little bit more for like swing trading perspective. If you're looking for anything a little bit more specific, and if you just want to set basic alerts like above average volume, or RSI 30 or RSI 70, or any of those really basic alerts, TradingView is very nice for that. You could just as easily come over here to the RSI, the volume. You can say add an alert. You can say volume crossing above, greater than, less than, blah, blah, blah. You know, you can set your volume. You can make it average. You can tell you only once per minute, once per bar. You can have it send you an email, send you an SMS. And so for the very basic alerts like volume, RSI, moving average crossovers, all that stuff, TradingView works beautifully for that. If you want to track a trend, let's say you're watching a horizontal price trend, or let me go to Bitcoin Cash here, for example, and you say, hey, I'm watching this channel here, and send me an alert when it breaks above. You can just say channel, exiting channel, boom, once per bar. You can say pop up, send me an email, all that stuff, put a note. And so for basic alerts, TradingView is probably the best way to do it, because it's if you're paying for it, it's already there, it's free. Yeah, Bollinger Band, exits, you can do all that stuff. The alerts that I have developed here, these are proprietary. Plus, there's some Ichimoku stuff in there. And so these are a little bit different. And so this is just kind of an additional screen, because the difference is with most alert systems, you have to know what you want to set an alert on, right? You have to go in here and manually say, okay, I see this setup. Now I'm going to set an alert, or I'm going to do this or that, right? The difference is this does the other way around. This does the alerts, and it tells you what's moving. And so it kind of filters out the better setups, if you will, or the better names. And so that's what I use this for here. This is nodeinsiders.com if you want to learn more information about that. And so that's the difference. And, you know, at the end of the day, you can use them both, right? You can say, hey, I want a specific alert for one specific name, and you do it this way. But I use both there. So, all right, I'm going to do a few more, guys, and then we will wrap this up here. The TradingView screener is pretty good too, yeah, but you have to know what you're looking for there too, right? And filter out some names. Monero. Yeah, we looked at Monero. NEM. Haven't looked at NEM in a while. NEM. Yeah, I was watching this little double bottom potential forming here, but clearly it broke lower, and it just, man, making new lows. NEM on Bittrex here, because that's got more history here. I want to see long time history. It's basically right back to these November prices. Remember that big run up NEM had? Wow, that was pretty wild. It's basically retraced that whole move. You know, I'm not too excited about NEM long term. I don't know. They got a lot of competition, and the whole, you know, they got good people on the project, but it's just not too excited about it long term. All right, a couple more, and then we will wrap this one up here. BCH anniversary coming. That's right. I remember last August. Man, remember that? The fork. That was pretty wild. Jeez, has it been a year? Getting old, guys. I'm getting old. So let me clear these, because you can see I was watching a potential double top here on Poly, but it is sitting right at some support here long term. Not longer term, more intermediate term. I think this is kind of the all-time price, actually. So if it breaks below, that's going to be new lows here. A little bit of a bullish divergence forming, but it is starting to break below resistance. So watching that, I mean, this is technically a little bit of a double top, maybe what am I looking for? Descending triangle type of thing. So that's it on Poly. Security tokens, and a lot of people have been talking about that. And I think security tokens absolutely will have a place in the ecosystem. They will be good, but Polymath, they have a business that's going to help you with that. But like many projects, I kind of question the need for their token. It's like, okay, like if I want to issue a security token, do I need to buy Polymath and use it? No. Am I going to need Polymath when I go sell my my tokens on a security exchange? No, right? So there's a lot of projects where I kind of question the need for the specific token. And, you know, a lot of these projects, before the whole regulation crackdown hit, we were buying the projects because we thought they were securities, right? Like, hey, this is like I'm owning part of a company, and if they succeed, this token will go up in value. That's kind of switched a little bit. And, you know, there's other companies that are doing what Polymath does, but they don't have necessarily a token, but you can still go hire them if you want to get a security token set up. So I think it's a good business model it's going to be needed and they're going to probably make money. Is Polymath, the token, going to benefit from that? I'm skeptical. Is it tradable? Heck yeah. I mean, if it has a good setup and trade, I'll trade it. All right. A couple more, and we will wrap this one up. I do got to head out of the office early today. So I figured what better way to do this than do a live stream. HODL. HODL. Cardano. We've done Cardano like 3 times now. It's a popular one. Everybody wants to do Cardano. So we did Cardano. I am watching it here, especially from the USD pair. It is trying to put a little bit of a low on the BTC side, but I'm liking the USD pair as a potential breakout candidate here. You can see you have the daily chart setting up there, looking pretty good. 4-hour chart. Load. There it goes. Trying to break out here. A little bit of a bull flag, forming bull pennant here, following that strong move higher. So from that perspective, Cardano. QuantStamp. Yeah, what happened to QuantStamp? Popular name in one of the pump newsletters. QuantStamp. You know, just not done yet. Still going lower. Looking at QuantStamp here, it was trying to hold this support here. You can see it just broke right below here a couple days ago. So still not done. Pulling in. It looked like it was trying to form a low here, but just gave it up. QuantStamp. BTC setting up. Let's go take a quick look at BTC. It was looking like it was holding up here relatively well on the hourlies. Yeah, setting up for sure. Trying to break out again. I was taking a look at it earlier, right around this level at 82.50. And thinking, hey, maybe we'll get a little push higher to around 8,400 or so. Maybe this is the setup. Might have to take another shot at it here and look for a potential move here. We'll see. Quick trade. All right. Walton. Oh, yeah, Walton. Another name that got smacked yesterday. Let me go to the daily. Do I expect BTC to go up from here or pull back? You know, a pullback would not surprise me here, but the momentum has just been so strong that, you know, I think there's a lot of people still waiting to get in and wanting to get in more. So it's really hard to say just because normally I would say, hey, we're kind of nearing the end of the move, at least on, you know, for a couple of days of pause would be nice. But right now the momentum is just so strong that could it just keep going? Could it go to 8,500 more? Yeah, I mean, it could. So that's something to be watching there. But it is feeling a little bit extended here near term. Walton, man, a quick move down here with the last couple of days. I was watching it back here thinking maybe that was it. Nope, not confirming. And that's why I like to just wait for that confirmation rather than guess that's the low, just because, I mean, this tried and then just rolled right over. So nothing yet, but so many of these names, they look the same. They're kind of hitting these washed out levels, and I'm starting to pay attention to them, especially the projects that I like. I'm looking at them and thinking, all right, they're at some good values here if they do decide to finally turn the corner. If and when. They will. They eventually will. It's just a matter of when, right? From what price? Do you always recommend stop loss when trading? If I can't watch the charts, I would. And there's different ways around stop loss levels. I mean, there really are. Normally, the best way to do it is never just use an arbitrary percent, right? So if you're buying something, don't just say, I'm going to do a stop loss of 5% every time, or 4% or 1%. Like that's just too arbitrary. You always want to pick, you know, some technical place in the chart plus maybe some percentage. You can use ATR, average true range. You can say, okay, I'm going to take this number plus ATR and make my stop down here. So there's a couple of ways to do it. And that's ultimately the best way to do it, is find some technical place in the chart And let's say you're buying it, like let's say you're buying this one here up here, and your stop has to be down here because that's where the near-term support was. BCH, see there's the alert I just set. Then you just position size accordingly. So if this is stop is 17% and you're thinking that's way too much, which probably would be for me, then either you make it a tiny position or you wait for a pullback, right? And so that's how I do it. So my stops are always something technical, and then my position size is dependent on how large of a stop I have. If I have a tiny stop, a tighter stop, then I'll go much heavier. If I got a wide stop, position has to be smaller. Okay, guys. I think that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining this live stream. I appreciate it. Always good comments, good chatting with everyone, and appreciate all the likes and the subscribes. 8K Bitcoins, nice to see. We'll see how far further this continues going into the week. Till next time, happy trading. Take care, everybody.